Welcome back, Focus Learners. I am absolutely thrilled to have you here for another explainer. Today, we are embarking on a really comprehensive, incredibly rewarding journey into something we literally all pursue, but honestly, we often completely misunderstand it. I'm talking about happiness. We usually think of it as a destination, right? Like, I'll be happy when I get that promotion at work, or when I buy that new car, or when I finally hit that magic number in my bank account. But we aren't just talking about those fleeting temporary moments of joy today. We are talking about mastering the actual science of human flourishing through the lens of positive psychology. This explainer is designed to give you the exact framework, the structured tools, and the direct understanding you need to not just vaguely read about well-being, but to actively construct it in your daily life. To really anchor our exploration today, take a look at this striking visual of a climber standing before a vast, sunlit mountain range. I want you to keep this metaphor in the back of your mind throughout our entire explainer, because mastering your well-being, achieving true human flourishing, is exactly like this. It's a deliberate, upward climb. It takes dedicated effort, the right gear, and a very clear path. It is definitely not an instant teleportation to the peak, where you suddenly become perfectly happy forever. No way. We are going to build the stamina for this lifelong climb together, step by step. So here's the trail map for today's climb. First, we'll look at the shift to flourishing. Second, the core concepts of happiness. Third, we'll get into practical tools and habits. Fourth, we're overcoming the positivity myth. And finally, the path to mastery.
Okay, starting with Section 1, the shift to flourishing. Starting right at base camp, let's look at a profoundly important paradigm shift. For decades, traditional psychology acted kind of like a repair shop. It was focused almost entirely on pathology, fixing what was broken, addressing mental illness, and repairing human weaknesses. And that's absolutely crucial work, but it was entirely about getting people from, say, -5 back to 0. But in the late 1990s, renowned psychologists Martin Seligman and Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi asked a really radical question. Instead of just asking, what is wrong with us, they asked, what makes life worth living? And boom, that is positive psychology. It is the rigorous, scientific examination of how individuals and communities can actually thrive. It's about how we go from 0 up to +5.
Now, what's really fascinating is this $1.4 billion figure. That was the value of the global well-being market in 2023 alone. Fun fact for you, just a decade ago, this market was a tiny fraction of that size. I point this out because it powerfully validates the immense demand for this field. Positive psychology isn't just some abstract, feel-good theory anymore. It has evolved into a highly sought-after discipline. These evidence-based practices are fundamentally transforming therapy, executive coaching, human resources, and modern education. The world is heavily investing in the science of thriving.
So, the crucial point to remember here is that you aren't just learning this for your own personal growth, although, hey, that is a fantastic starting point. These principles have massive ripple effects. Organizations use them to build productive, highly resilient workplaces where people actually want to show up on a Monday morning. Schools implement them to foster genuine student success, turning classrooms from anxiety-inducing stress factories into environments of true curiosity. Healthcare systems are integrating these very approaches for complete, holistic patient care. Mastering this science builds stronger connections, improves how we communicate globally, and builds incredible community resilience.
Moving right along to Section 2, Core Concepts of Happiness.
All right, it is time to unpack the essential mental gear you are going to need for this upward journey. If you take literally one framework away from this entire explainer, let it be Seligman's PERMA model. Think of these 5 pillars as the load-bearing walls of your happiness. P is for positive emotion. This is about consciously cultivating joy, gratitude, and hope on a daily basis. E is for engagement, getting completely absorbed in what you do. R is for relationships. And listen, we don't just mean having a bunch of acquaintances on social media. We mean building deep, empathetic, 3 a.m. phone call level connections. M stands for meaning, which is simply serving a purpose bigger than your own ego. Think volunteering or mentoring someone. And finally, A is for accomplishment, which is the pursuit of mastery just for the sheer sake of getting better at something. When you consciously build all 5 of these pillars, you are actively engineering a flourishing life. Let's look a bit closer at that E in the PERMA model, engagement. This is perfectly captured by Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi's concept of flow. Flow is that absolute optimal state of consciousness where your skills perfectly match the challenge right in front of you. Think of a musician completely lost in a jazz solo, or a coder who looks up from their keyboard to realize 4 hours have passed in what felt like 5 minutes. That is flow. It is absolutely crucial for your daily satisfaction. In a world full of constant pings and notifications and distractions, identifying and protecting the activities that trigger this deep, hyper-focused state for you is a major milestone on our climb.
Now let's see how this builds into the broader philosophy of the field, the strength-based approach. This is where positive psychology totally diverges from the traditional repair shop model we talked about earlier. Society is constantly telling us to focus on our flaws, right? But instead of spending 80% of your energy trying to become slightly less terrible at public speaking, if that happens to be your natural weakness, you spend it maximizing your natural talent for one-on-one empathy and active listening. This fundamental perspective shift changes absolutely everything about how you approach your personal development, how you solve complex problems, and how you interact with your colleagues. You amplify what is already great.
Let's dive into Section 3, Practical Tools and Habits.
I know exactly what you're wondering right now. How do we actually build these skills? Theory is great, it's fascinating, but as focused learners, we want the practical application. How do we take the PERMA model and the concept of flow and turn them into tangible, daily habits that actually move the needle on our well-being?
Well, here is your structured path to learning. Step 1. Start with foundational reading. Pick up seminal texts like Seligman's Flourish or Csikszentmihalyi's Flow. Step 2. Formalize your education. A phenomenal, evidence-based resource is Yale's immensely popular Coursera course on the science of well-being, which breaks down exactly what makes us happy versus what we mistakenly think makes us happy. Step 3. Keep the momentum going with ongoing education through podcasts. And Step 4, and honestly, this is perhaps the most critical one, personal practice. Look, reading about push-ups doesn't build muscle, and reading about happiness doesn't build well-being. Regular journaling and reflection accelerate your understanding from just the intellectual realm into the actual experiential realm.
If you want a place to start your personal practice today, right now, try this. Simply note 3 things you are thankful for every single day. And no, surviving another Monday does not count. It sounds almost too simple, doesn't it? But the data is incredibly compelling. Research proves that this specific gratitude practice significantly increases baseline happiness levels and reduces symptoms of depression within just 3 weeks, literally less than a month. In that time, you are building brand new neural pathways in your brain. You are fundamentally training your mind to actively scan the world for the positive rather than just defaulting to the negative, like our brains are naturally hardwired to do. Alongside gratitude, practicing mindfulness meditation for just 5 to 10 minutes daily is an absolute game changer. The barrier to entry here is incredibly low, but it massively enhances your ability to stay present and recognize those negative thought patterns without instantly judging them. And the real magic happens when you bring this presence into your daily interactions. For example, practicing active constructive responding. That's a very clinical term, but it really just means engaging enthusiastically when a colleague or a loved one shares good news. Instead of just saying, "Cool, good job," while still staring at your laptop, you actually put down your phone, look them in the eye, and say, "That's amazing, how did you manage to pull that off?" Trust me, it transforms relationships instantly.
And this brilliantly illustrates the incredible toolkit available to you right now to support those habits. For digital apps, you have Happify for science-based activities or Calm and Headspace for guided mindfulness. Under assessment tools, I cannot recommend the VIA Character Strength Survey enough. It is an absolute game changer. It's completely free, scientifically validated across multiple cultures, and it gives you immediate insight into your top strengths so you can start leveraging them today. And for those of you who really want to dive into the deep end of the data, research resources like the Greater Good Science Center and the Journal of Positive Psychology are total goldmines of accessible science.
Okay, Section 4, Overcoming the Positivity Myth. As we climb higher up this mountain, we need to navigate some slightly dangerous terrain. Let's definitively bust the single biggest myth in this entire field right now. Read this quote with me. Positive psychology isn't about suppressing negative emotions or maintaining forced cheerfulness. I really want to let that sink in for a second. We are absolutely not talking about toxic positivity. We are not telling you to reply good vibes only when a friend is going through a devastating loss, or to slap a fake plastic smile on your face when you are going through a personal crisis. That kind of behavior is deeply harmful, it's invalidating, and frankly, it is the exact opposite of what the actual science teaches us. The actual end goal of all these practices we're discussing is something called psychological flexibility. This means fully acknowledging the messy, complicated, often painful spectrum of human experience. That includes sadness, anger, and grief. The objective is not to be a rigid stone wall that tries to block out every single negative emotion because guess what? That wall will eventually crumble.
The goal is to be more like a tree that can bend in a severe storm without snapping in half. It's about building the internal emotional resources and the resilience you need to navigate life's inevitable difficulties effectively, processing the pain so you don't get permanently stuck in a loop of negativity.
And to maintain that psychological flexibility, you need a very strict theory-practice balance. Look, it is incredibly easy to just read book after book after book about the mountain and never actually step foot on the trail. Don't get lost in the academic theory. You need to actually schedule specific times in your day to practice these techniques. Remember, small, consistent daily actions, like that 5-minute gratitude journal we talked about, yield infinitely greater benefits than an occasional, exhausting, weekend-long intensive effort. Consistency is for sure your absolute best climbing gear.
And finally, Section 5, the path to mastery.
If you want to truly master this stuff, and perhaps even build a career around positive psychology, you need to specialize. Find the focus area that really aligns with your passions. Whether that's implementing strength-based approaches in education, enhancing workplace well-being in organizational psychology, or integrating these interventions into clinical therapy. Build relationships with peers, join professional organizations like the IPPA. By doing this, you aren't just learning in a vacuum. You are actively contributing to a massive global network of people trying to make the world a functionally better place. And most importantly, relentlessly apply these concepts in real-world settings.
Which brings our visual metaphor full circle. Mastering the science of happiness is a lifelong practice. As you climb, as you actively build those neural pathways of gratitude, flow, and empathy, you aren't just transforming your own outlook. The ultimate measure of your success is your ability to create cascading ripples of positive change in your family, your friendships, your workplace, and your broader community. You literally become a beacon of flourishing for the people around you.
So, I want to leave you with this provocative question to chew on. What is one small practice you will begin today to build your momentum toward flourishing? Will it be writing down 3 things you're grateful for, taking just 5 minutes for mindfulness, or finally discovering your character strengths? The trail's completely laid out in front of you, the science is crystal clear, and the climb is absolutely worth it. Take that first step today. Thank you so much for learning with me, and I'll see you in the next explainer.